2, test, test.
I was trying to catch. Good? Everyone, we are about to start, so please take your seats. Welcome, Timpview students, teachers, community members, and especially to our veterans who are here today. We are so excited to be back in person for this event this year. My name is Brinley Harrison, and I am the Public Relations Officer in charge of the Veterans Day Tribute. It has been an honor to work with our city's Veteran Council, the Mayor's Office, and our amazing students here at Timpview to create a special tribute program for you today. We will begin our program today with help from our color guard, who will present the flags. After the posting of the flags, we ask that all in attendance remain standing as Ms. Provo Whitney Gilman and her royalty perform the national anthem and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing as I will now lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. have the privilege of gathering here today to honor the amazing men and women who have served our country. As I've had the opportunity to help plan this event and meet with veterans, I have come to appreciate and recognize everything veterans do for our country. You are our modern-day heroes. We love you and are so thankful for your service. My grandfather, Ray Harrison, served in the Army in Germany in 1959. Unfortunately, he just passed away from COVID a few months ago. I'm sad that he's not able to be here this year, but I can still recognize him as the hero he was to our country and to me, as well as all other veterans who have passed away. Former United States Representative Jeff Miller said, quote, "The willingness of America's veterans to sacrifice for our country has earned them our lasting gratitude." So thank you. Thank you for devoting yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally to protecting all of us. We will first hear from our Mayor, Michelle Kafusi. Then our Student Body President, Lucy Thorstensen, will give a brief explanation of the Armed Force Medley. The medley will be performed by the Timpview Band and Color Guard. Next, our Timpview students have prepared veteran spotlights, as well as a dance and musical performance. Following these, we will have the privilege to hear from General Val Peterson, who will be our keynote speaker. I will then announce the remaining portion of the program.
As I walked in here this morning, I was overwhelmed with the endless hours. I have them, and then they decide to pick like 4 things in school to do, including sports, basketball, football, a cappella. Boy, endless hours in here. But I can't tell you the fond memories as well. It's just a real pleasure to be back here and amongst all of you students and Dr. Montero. But most importantly, we are here today to honor our vets, and I am humbled to have the opportunity to speak to you for just a few brief minutes. Some say it's human nature to take things for granted, and even easier to take things for granted that we enjoy daily, because they seem endless until they aren't. We often don't appreciate our good health until we're sick. My kids absolutely drive me crazy until they move across the country and I miss them. We breathe without thought until the winter inversion hits. May I add one other? Freedom. Freedom is at the heart of our nation's foundation and is our history's brightest thread. And yet, too often we forget its pivotal place in our lives because we expect to always have it. This is until it is threatened, and then we remember. As Ronald Reagan said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It is our duty, every one of us, to continue to protect it, knowing of the great sacrifice that was made to earn it, and constantly necessary if we are to keep it. As Eleanor Roosevelt reminded us all, freedom makes a huge requirement of every human being. With freedom comes responsibility. I suggest one of these responsibilities is to more often remember freedom, to reflect on it more frequently as the gift and responsibility that it is. I want to share just a personal story. I married the cutest little Tongan immigrant named Steve Kafusi. And he came to America. His father came over in 1971 alone and started working in Salt Lake to try and earn enough money to bring his mom, his wife, and the 5 littles that they had at the time. When Steve came to America with his mom, along with the kids and a baby in arms that was just 4 months old, it was terrifying. None of them spoke English, but somehow they landed at the Salt Lake airport and found their way to their dad. When I talk to Steve, it's giving me goosebumps and makes me feel emotional because I know how much America means to this Kafusi family. I asked him last night, I said, Steve, how did you feel when you became an American citizen? And Steve's kind of shy if you know him. I'm definitely the talker in the family. He's very shy and humble. And he said, gratitude, pride, honor, privilege, completed my family's dream and goal that they set out to accomplish in 1972. He said, "We had been waiting so long to become citizens of this great country. It was a long journey, but it was worth it." And then he said the word vote. Now, just a little memory, when we used to vote in person, which I miss dearly, his first time he was able to vote after he became an American citizen was right here at Timpview. We parked over by the orchestra room and we came walking around. He was so excited. He had his notebook because he had studied every candidate. He had studied every judge. I mean, who studies the judges? He had studied every issue on the ballot. He had marked and taken notes, and he stopped at that flag outside, and he said, "Please take a picture of me." And as I took that picture, tears were just streaming out of his eyes. And it was so great for me to see, and my kids that at that time were old enough to vote, how much America meant to him as an immigrant. Now, if you ever have a question about a candidate, including his wife, he'd be happy to give you an unbiased opinion. So seeing freedom through Steve's eyes after he had worked so hard to earn it made me see it differently. Seeing freedom through the eyes of those who have fought to preserve it should make us all see it differently. What makes this day and this event so special is that it is all about freedom remembered. Thank you to our veterans, our past, present, and future, for fighting for freedom. Today we honor only a select few by sharing their stories, but we should also be reminded of the many others whose sacrifice also count. We honor those who fought for freedom, hoping we may follow in the example of those who understand it best, and as such would never take it for granted. Thank you for allowing me to share a few words, and may God continue to bless this great country that we call America.
It is a tradition at patriotic events to honor each branch of the military of the armed services with their own service song. It is performed to honor and salute the men and women from each branch of our U.S. Armed Forces and their families. We invite all in attendance to stand when their branch's song of the military is played. We also invite any in the audience to stand to honor and represent a family member who has served. Army. The Marines. The Navy. The Air Force. Coast Guard. The Coast Guard.
Hi, my name is Rachel, and today I'm going to be spotlighting my grandfather. My grandfather is Robert Edmonds, and he served in the Army from 1956 to 1958. He was a specialist third class, and he was born on February 24, 1934 in Waltham, Massachusetts. He attended the University of Massachusetts and graduated in June 1956 with a bachelor's degree in sociology. That year, he had made arrangements with the Cape Cod Council of the Boy Scouts of America to work for the summer as the assistant director at Camp Greenough on Cape Cod, which included preparing the camp for the upcoming summer season as well as cleaning it up after the season had ended. He then made arrangements with the draft board to be drafted into the U.S. Army in September. At this point in time, anyone who was male and old enough to be drafted was drafted into the military. The men normally got drafted into the branch of the Army. Previously, he had completed the Air Force ROTC program, but due to his vision, he was turned down from the flight school he had hoped to go to. So while my grandpa could have joined the Air Force as a second lieutenant, serving a minimum of only 3 years, he decided to go ahead and take his chances after being drafted into the Army. As previously arranged, he was drafted and inducted in September. He was sent to Fort Dix, New Jersey for a short time. In those couple of weeks, he was selected to serve in the 3rd Division across the globe in Germany. As a prerequisite, he needed to complete the 6 months of training down south in Fort Hood, Texas. After finishing his training, he was sent to his assignment in Friedberg, West Germany. The assignment he and the other soldiers had received was to prevent and keep Russian and Eastern German militaries from invading and taking control of Western Germany. One of his tasks was repairing tanks used in the war, and also received personal help by President John F. Kennedy with a problem resolved in his favor. While in Germany, he met my grandma, Gerda Schwatlow, and later they got married. When his service ended, he returned back to Massachusetts with his new wife and started a family. He likes to say Elvis Presley was his replacement back in Germany, but he could never be replaced. He worked at Liberty Mutual Insurance as a software engineer for 34 years. He and my grandma then served an 18-month LDS mission back in Germany, and upon returning home, moved to Utah to be closer to their kids and grandkids, where they still live. Please help me honor my grandpa, Robert Abbott Edmonds, Specialist 3rd Class in the U.S. Army.
Okay, hi everybody. As you can tell, my name is Joel Roberts. I'm a sophomore here at Timpview High School. Today I have been honored to share a brief introduction of my daddy boy, Philip Salila Roberts Jr., who is a former enlisted Marine. As a kid, my dad had always been intrigued by the life of a soldier and what they did for our country. Sorry. He later then joined the United States Marine Corps in 1996. He was enlisted as an infantryman and he worked as a scout sniper for 3 years. Not long after getting married, he had decided that he wanted to be home more and changed to the Intel Battalion and became part of the Ground Sensor Platoon. His unit gathered intel on enemy movement and patterns. They provided an early warning system for the Marines in the area. And then my dad decided that, well, he didn't decide. He was then deployed to the Mediterranean area in Okinawa, Japan, as part of the Marine Expeditionary Unit. Each deployment was 6 months long for that area that he served in, and he then was both deployed to both Iraq and Afghanistan around 4 times, and his deployments usually had lasted between 8 to 12 months. And all the tours he went on were mainly combat, but they were also focused on rebuilding the cities. While it was hard for my dad boy out there, it was also hard not having him at home. An example was that for the first 5 years of my older brother's life, some of you may know him, his name was Jager. Most of his life, my dad was gone for like around 3.5 years of it, serving our country. And not only was this tough for my brother, but it was tough for me and the rest of my siblings. It was also tough for my mom, not having him at home, helping, serving our family too. But my mom had understood the sacrifices my daddy boy made for our family and for our country, and she had fully supported him in it. My dad would have liked to have been a career Marine, but shortly after his last deployment to Iraq, he shattered his wrist in a skateboarding accident, and he then had to be he had to be then undeployed. But one of the things that my dad kept with him for his whole life was that once a Marine, always a Marine. He kept that with him, and he used that as a quote that he wants to that he says to us, because one of the main mottos that he has from the Marines was Semper Fi, which means always faithful. I want you to know that my daddy boy has always been faithful to the Marines, to our country, and always to our family. He will always go the extra mile as he serves our school community. He is always the last man working, and he is my best friend. Please help me honor my father, who is a Sergeant Marine Corps Sensor Platoon Intelligence, Philip Salila Roberts Jr. And yes, sorry.
Hello, my name is Hallie Boone. I'm a senior here at Timpview, and I have the privilege of introducing our keynote speaker today, General Val L. Peterson. He was born in 1963 in Emmett, Idaho. When he was 21, he enlisted in the U.S. Army and served in the 142nd Military Intelligence Battalion in linguistics. He's served for the past 27 years in a variety of positions in the 300th Military Intelligence Battalion. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Communications, a Master of Arts in Mass Communications, and a PhD in Educational Leadership from BYU. He's living his American dream with his wife, Anne, and their 3 kids. In his free time, he enjoys boating, golfing, and camping. He is currently serving as a member of the Utah House of Representatives and has been in that position since 2011. He is the Vice President of Finance and Administration at Utah Valley University for the past 35 years. Please join me in welcoming General Val L. Peterson.
Haley, thanks for that kind introduction. And to Principal Montero, to Mayor Kafusi, to my colleague, Representative Judkins, and all of the student body here at Timpanogos High School, thank you for hosting this event to honor our veterans. It's a pleasure to be here at the Thunderdome at Timpview High School. Just let me say, as we talk about Veterans Day, one of the first things I want to say is thank you to all our veterans. Each one of them has a unique story. Just like we heard the two spotlights that were presented here today, every veteran has a story behind their service, why they joined, and what it's meant to them. But all in all, it all comes down to service. It comes down to service to our country. It comes down to us knowing to make the sacrifices so that we can all be free. When we talk about Veterans Day actually started out as Armistice Day. It was created and signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson at the end of World War I, the war to end all wars. As Woodrow Wilson set the time, it was for November 11th during the 11th hour of the 11th minute. And he said this, "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in their country's service, and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of all nations." In 1954, it was changed to Veterans Day in order to acknowledge all the service of every veteran who served. Now, as I thought about what I could say today, I was just reviewing some things. And one of the things that really struck me was the legacy that my family has had in the military. And Lieutenant Colonel Stacy was the first POW in the Revolutionary War. My great-great-grandfather, Jedediah Huntington, was with Washington at Valley Forge. My Uncle Ralph went across Europe with Patton. And my grandfather, Hank Rico, went across the Pacific in World War II. My father-in-law, Lyle Norris, served in 3 wars, drafted into World War II, and served on a B-29, and then served in Korea and Vietnam. As we look at those sacrifices that they've all made, one of the things that sticks out, though, is my Uncle Frank. My Uncle Frank, who enlisted in the Marines at the start of World War I. One of the most famous poems that we can find about military service is Flanders Fields. And it goes like this. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe to you, from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high, if you break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. Now, my Uncle Frank enlisted in the Marines, and he went to Quantico, Virginia, as a cohort battalion in the Marine Corps. 1,000 of them trained together and prepared to go to France. At the end of their year, they went to France by ship across the ocean, and he reflects on it as being the calm days across the ocean. They arrived in France. They were a reserve battalion in a conflict, a little battle that was there, and then they went to the Battle of Belleau Wood. If you know much about the Battle of Belleau Wood, you know that World War I was trench warfare. And so they were in the trenches there as they prepared for June 11th, 1918, a battle to defend France, to defend Paris. At 6 o'clock in the evening on June 11th, the executive officer blew a whistle, and they climbed over the trench into 19 German machine gun nests to their front, with the objective to take out those machine gun nests. As they worked their way across the battlefield, my uncle and his 2 assistant machine gunners, they made it about a third of the way across when the first machine gunner was killed. My uncle picked up his ammunition and continued to work their way across the field. The second assistant machine gunner was killed about 2/3 of the way across. My Uncle Frank actually made it to the objective of the machine gun nest. As he arrived, he was greeted by some Germans who were there, and he was mortally wounded and killed. He was buried in France, and this is one of the things that happens as you look at military service. His mother, who was here in Draper, Utah, always felt the loss of him being buried in France. The Department of Defense 3 years later offered to bring him home and to bury him in Draper, which she did. So if you go to Draper today, to the old cemetery, you'll see the largest monument in the cemetery is to Frank Peterson. And inscribed upon it is the words, "He died on the fields of France so that we could all have freedom." So I want you to think about that a little bit. Because of his death, because of the death of many other veterans who've gone on before us, we can have this meeting today. Because of their deaths, the legislature can meet and discuss policies and procedures and the laws that will govern our land. It's because of the deaths of those who have gone before us that we can do the things that we do today, that we can have the freedoms that we have, that we can have the vote like the mayor talked about. It's because of the sacrifices of veterans, the veterans that are sitting here in front of us, that we enjoy the freedoms that we have. I want to say that as you look at the 12 major conflicts that we've had in our nation, as you look at the hundreds of minor conflicts, that every generation has to defend the freedoms that we all enjoy. Every generation has to stand up for freedom at one point during their lives. So as we move forward, I want you to think about the freedoms that you enjoy, the opportunities to go to school, the opportunities to vote, the opportunities to do the things that you choose, to go to the institution that you want to, and know that that has been provided because of the sacrifice of the veterans who have gone before you. Today, as you think about our freedoms, thank a veteran. Thank them for their service. Thank them for what it means to each and every one of us. God bless America, and God bless all of you.
As we close, I would like to thank everyone who has been a part of our amazing program today, including our veterans in attendance. We want to give a special thanks to the Veterans Council, Mayor's Office, Freedom Festival, and community members who make this such a meaningful tradition. We would also like to give a huge thank you to Costa Vida for providing lunch this afternoon. Please see the back of your program to view all other people who helped make this tribute possible. As we leave today, we invite our veterans and their family members to stay for a luncheon provided by Costa Vida in the gym next door. Veterans, we invite you to exit out the door you came in, and we ask that students remain placed standing in their seats. The Timpview Band will play postlude as the veterans exit. As one of over 2,000 students here at Timpview High School, we hope our community of veterans knows how much we honor their service to our country. We are so grateful for their dedication and service that allows us to live the lives we do. Thank you.